P.J. Crowley is a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State and author of Redline, American Foreign Policy in a Time of Fractured Politics and Failing States. He joins me now from Washington, D.C. P.J., you tweeted Thursday morning President Trump, quote, believed he could defy diplomatic gravity and achieve something historic, but North Korea has long been the graveyard of such ambitions. Was this meeting doomed from the very beginning?
Well, I don't think it was doomed from the very beginning, but it was going to be the start of a lengthy negotiating process. And within the administration, there were conflicting points of view as to the value of that process. The president wanted to achieve something historic, but for a realist like John Bolton, he wanted the conversation to be short. Either Kim Jong-un would denuclearize or not. And obviously, as he advanced this so-called Libya model, Kim Jong-un got cold feet.
At this point, what kind of work is actually needed for this meeting if it's going to, in fact, happen in the future?
Well, Omar, I think that's a great question. I think everyone's got a homework assignment here. I mean, the first and foremost, probably the responsibility falls on, President Moon of South Korea, to keep the channels of communication open among South Korea, North Korea, and the United States, and perhaps try to, reestablish a foundation upon which a successful, meeting in the future can be achieved. I think for North Korea, the first hint will be, does Kim Jong-un keep his missiles, locked away? The moratorium that he established was of great value. If he starts to fire off missiles once again, then we're back to the cycle of fire and fury that we saw, last year. And I think for the Trump administration, they've got to decide, what they're willing to do. Their bottom line is denuclearization, but as we know, that means different things, to different participants. And I think they've got to figure out how much are they going to be invested in a negotiating process, and crucially, to entice Kim Jong-un to denuclearize. What are they willing to pony up?
And you're right, square one is a scary square one. From the periphery, it kind of seemed like they were planning the wedding before the engagement even happened. Does the administration learn from this?
Well, that's a very, very good question, Omar. The president is not, the learning curve for President Trump has not been very steep. But I think that what he did here was he pulled the plug. Before Kim Jong-un was going to pull the plug. That has certain advantages. I mean, for once, we've pocketed some benefits here. The president did get the hostages home, and he does have a moratorium. Now we'll see if Kim Jong-un is going to keep that moratorium in place while we kind of, reestablish a basis for what comes next.
And President Trump called this a, quote, tremendous setback for North Korea and indeed for the world. But who is the biggest loser in this situation? Is it North Korea? Is it the current administration? Who's the biggest loser?
Well, I think that Kim Jong-un remains the bigger winner here. He had 2 meetings with Xi Jinping of China. He's had 1 meeting with President Moon. He's emerged on the global stage, and he still has his nuclear weapons. I think for President Trump, I think he cut his losses. He allowed expectations of a great breakthrough, to get too far in front of reality here. I think the big loser here is, President Moon. He's been very invested in this, but then he's also going to be the one that perhaps is most able to keep this process going forward, keep this process alive, and see what is possible in the coming months.
It's a diplomatic thriller that's unfolding in front of our eyes. P.J. Crowley in Washington, thank you very much.
You're welcome.